Okay, hard left. I got a bit of a hard left.
Okay.
It's kind of a hard left, but
All right.
have you ever worked with a partner like you work with other people, very personable,
Mm-hmm.
you have great dialogue, but just like you and somebody else, one on one, for like an extended period of time, for whatever reason. Like, have you ever worked with a partner?
So in wedding photography, a lot of
Uh
times I bring on a second shooter, but there's
Okay.
usually the primary or the lead. So
Uh huh.
usually the primary and lead kind of has a leadership role.
Okay.
And the second shoot, I mean, it's still a team, but when you
Yeah.
say like when you say partner, is it like 50-50?
No, 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 no. Not that. That was not where I was going with it. But even in photography, it seems like if you wanted to, you could limit your dialogue to just the job. Where with a partner, I'm talking about like cops, like two cops or like two EMT technicians, whatever, right? I'm talking about a partner where there's enough downtime in the situation where you're just kind of hanging out, almost like a forced friend type of person. Has that situation ever happened to you?
That's all the Navy, man.
That's yeah, but not one on one though. There's groups
Hmm.
like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean specifically just you and somebody else. Because in the Navy, there's like little groups and little cliques and like little handfuls of people. But to me, there's something very different about even another person in the room. Like even me, you, and Christian having the podcast is a very different dynamic than just me and you, or just you and Christian, or just
Right.
me and Christian. Right? Like the conversation is different, and the flow of the conversation is different. Right? So yeah, so that it doesn't sound like it doesn't sound like it's comes up a lot for you, unless maybe you and the second shooter, there's a time where you guys have to, oh look, we have to wait a half an hour or an hour for the wedding couple to arrive, and now we're just sitting here talking about nothing because we're just waiting. But it doesn't sound like that happens really. It's
Mm, no, not really. I mean, there are times because like sometimes you have to drive out to do something. Like
uh
a
huh
lot of times, like my assistant, I'll have an assistant with me, and
uh huh
he already knows what I need. Or like say for
yeah
instance, I have two family portraits this weekend.
okay
I go from one family portrait, and then me and my assistant get to drive like 2 hours north to
okay
Santa Barbara.
okay there you go.
So so
So
yeah,
something like that,
I mean that
like
happens often. That happens often.
yeah
Yeah.
yeah. Um, And is it like this? Is the second shooter usually somebody? Is it usually kind of the same person most of the time, or is it like somebody different a lot of the time? Or
Not really. I mean, it depends. I've used a lot of the same second shooters.
hmm
I have there's a guy I use. His name is Sergio.
yeah,
He's done quite a few of the second shooting stuff with me.
yeah, I remember
I've
using
been
his name
used.
before.
I've used the same assistant for probably the last five or six events.
So okay, because the reason I bring it up is because I feel like at my work for the type of job that I do, there's four departments that do that type of job, and one department there's just one guy working there. Another department there's four. Another department there's three, and then for our department there's two. So of the four departments, we're the only one where we work hand in hand with one other person. And I feel like it's a reason that some of the differences exist. Like for me, it's kind of my go-to. If they're like, "Hey, how come your department does it this way and everybody else seems to do it another way?" Oh, that's because we work in partners. Or, "Hey, how come there's a problem with this thing that you guys do?" I'm like, "Oh, that's because we work in partners." Like I think there's something very different and unique, and also something very precious about working with one other person. In my experience, I don't feel like you can completely ignore each other. I feel like there's always a certain element of like you guys taking care of each other or backing each other up. Um, and then I also feel like there is a certain fondness that grows whether or not one existed to begin with. Like you almost miss your partner even when you kind of can't stand them when you're together. So
Yeah, I don't have that kind of like my second shooters. I only see them at events, so I might only see them like 2 or 3 times a month.
yeah,
You know,
and then
so
maybe for the 2 hours of driving or something, that's enough time for you guys to kind of catch up and talk about your maybe there's like a typical flow of conversation and then it's back to work, or something like that. But like,
Pretty much.
because
Yeah. There's no.
I've had like shift partners where it was me and that same guy for like a couple years, 3, 4, 5 years, and the flow of our conversations changed because our lives were changing, and who better to tell than your partner? Like, it's the person that you have to be around and are always around this whole time. Like, you spend the most of your time around them, and whatever is going on in your life, either you're gonna actively try to hide that from them, or you're gonna actively try to tell them. Like, there's gonna be a decision made whether or not this person knows about this information. So anyway,
No, I don't think.
huh?
Well, I was gonna say I don't like. I've had to deal with. I in lately. I
Mm-hmm.
can't say aside from my wife, I don't spend that much consecutive time with people.
Yeah.
Like day to day. Like I might see them often, but it's not as often as like you're seeing someone. Like if you're doing shift work and
Yeah.
you're paired up with the same person for 3 or 4 years, that's definitely different from anything I've done. So
Let's put it this way. Let's put it this way. If my shift partner was an attractive female, I'd probably have to change shift partners. Like, I wouldn't be able to work with her. And I don't
you
think
couldn't
you
be a
interact
nurse.
with anybody like that, huh?
Here's the thing is I feel like I act like that with everyone, but then by doing that, it doesn't make it special for anybody.
Including your wife?
I hang out with my wife.
Yeah, but you're saying you act like that with everybody, like including your
Well,
wife. Like, you
I'm
act
not
the same
gonna.
way with
I'm
your
not
wife
gonna.
as you.
I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna finger. I'm not gonna finger blast a female coworker of mine.
No. But okay, so like in the nursing field, even in the nursing field, they don't work. I don't feel like they work in partners. It's like either like patient to nurse relationship or like a team of nurses or something. Every once in a while, maybe two nurses go into a job and do that together. But I don't think like it's. I don't view nurses the way I view cops, which is like, okay, sometimes a cop just has this one partner, and that's who they spend like every breathing minute with for the duration of their shift for months and years on end. Like, nursing is not that way, correct?
No, it's not. It's not
So
that
that's
intimate.
so that's what I meant. So okay, if you want to use the word intimate, so this is almost an intimate relationship with the person that I'm working with, and that's why I said
Right.
that thing about the attractive female. Like, I can have coworkers that are attractive females, no problem. I mean, that would suck if I had a job that I just have, or I was the type of person that could only work with ugly people or only males or something. But if it
I've
was,
seen.
but if that person was my shift partner, it would be a problem. And I would argue that I feel like it would be a problem for anybody. I mean, for most people.
No.
Well,
No.
how do you know? You don't know my work.
No. You're like. Here's the thing, man. Like you're saying, if I had. So say I had. It was just me and one other nurse for 12 hours a day,
Mm-hmm.
and I only worked with that. I only worked with that nurse. Right. So there's a situation for some reason. It's just
Like a
me
private
and that
practice or
one
something.
nurse.
Maybe like
Yeah.
a
Sure.
medical assistant or
Okay.
something. Yeah.
Sure. And it's just me and that person every day. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they were highly attractive.
Yeah.
I have dealt with that in the nursing field. Like, there are so many attractive women in the nursing field to where
Yeah, but see, when you
it's
say that,
not like,
I know, but that's not what I'm talking about.
well, no, like here. So I'm trying to let me get to it.
Okay.
So if I were to be forced to work with one particular woman or girl
Mm-hmm.
every day, I still don't think that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, it might not be. It might not be. And for you, it probably wouldn't be. I don't think. Um, I still don't think you can picture it though. It's really hard to put into it.
No, I can.
I mean, okay. Well, color me incorrect then.
No, the same intimacy. You painted a really good picture with the police officers. So if say I was a police officer and my partner was an attractive girl, okay,
No.
one, it's like I already know the stipulations there. Like there's already consequences there. So the relationship, they're like the one thing that they always talk about in nursing is knowing how to maintain a professional relationship and maintaining professional distance, not just from the patients, but from your coworkers.
Yeah.
So for me, having that I work with a lot of attractive women, I've had a lot of practice with maintaining professional boundaries.
Okay, okay, okay. I got you. So but
And then
uh,
on top of that, my other job, where I get to film women on their most beautiful day. I get to take pictures of women getting married when they're dolled up to the nines and ready to be displayed to the world as their partner's wife. And
okay,
they're feeling so emotional and they are like just beyond beautiful that day. Okay? And I still have to maintain a professional attitude and separate myself to where I can still operate a camera and provide awesome images.
okay, interesting. I have a couple follow up questions. So
Go for it.
on the nursing front, what is your? Do you think there is a difference between being around a handful of beautiful women or being in the presence of one beautiful woman? Do you think it's one and the same?
Yes.
Okay, I don't think so. That was my one question. Number two, do you think that the bride is at her most beautiful on her wedding day?
Depends.
Interesting. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree.
Oh no, because the thing is, there are some times where I will meet the bride on the day
Uh
of the
huh.
wedding. So to me, that's her most beautiful day
Okay. I mean, yeah, in a
because
small
I've never met her
yeah.
before.
So what? Okay. So what about Tiana? Let's bring this home. Like, do you think she was the most beautiful on her wedding day?
No, she's had better days.
Because because I have like there's
I'm
something
just
that like a
kidding.
radio DJ said once, just in passing, and I it stuck with me because I agreed with it. I feel like the most beautiful I see any woman or my wife, right, is right after she's taken a shower.
Okay.
Like that's like appearance wise, I feel like I'm in a privileged position to be in the same room with her when she's out of the shower, type of thing. I like that she doesn't have any makeup on. I like that her hair is wet, whatever,
Hmm.
right? Um, and so like I could say even today, like I feel like that time of my wife's day, I find her more physically attractive than I would have found her on our wedding day, on any time on our wedding day. Now,
So your wife didn't shower on her wedding day?
touche. So I would say I think that they are trying to look their most beautiful. I also think there's an element of superficial conditions that exist for the wedding.
So the one thing that really transcends
Uh
that
huh.
for a lot of these
Uh
girls
huh.
is the vulnerability. Like that is really what I try to look for in the camera because it's like with a lot of these brides, they're giving up like, it's
Mm-hmm.
2017. These are single independent
Mm-hmm.
women giving that up to get married.
Okay.
And that's a very vulnerable position.
Hmm.
Very vulnerable position. So, and then to see that transition in the beginning of the day to where they have that anxiety, and then, like I said, them having that vulnerability to after the wedding to where there's this relief, the anxiety is gone, and they're happy, they're elated, they're happy to be part of a bigger
Uh,
family. Not just the bride, the groom as well, but it really stands out with the bride because you know it's usually it's the bride who's a lot more emotional, and that's awesome.
well, and even
Like I get to
I
be
would
a part
also
of that.
add another difference between the bride and the groom to support that argument is the amount of time it takes for the bride to get in bridal appearance. Very different than the amount of time it takes for the groom to get in groom appearance. It probably takes ten
Right.
times as long. And then also,
But
huh?
I think you missed what I said, man. Like it's that like yes, she gets dressed to the nines and stuff, but that emotion she's feeling really transcends her physical appearance.
Yeah, I don't agree. I mean,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, not because not from. I mean, I would have no idea based on a photographer standpoint, but as far as the flow of a wedding and like the handful of brides that I've seen, I feel like that moment, I've seen it come outside the wedding day. Like I see what you're saying as far as the life change that's going to happen and the type of adjustment, the type of the type of evolution that it takes for a woman to make that step from someone's girlfriend or just being someone single to being married and being someone's wife. I think you'd be lucky to capture that on the wedding day. I don't. To me, it's not a guarantee that that comes on the wedding day.
You're right. There's no guarantee, but that's what I aim for. I aim to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
that.
I mean, that's cool. That's admirable because, I mean, other photographers it might just fly right over their heads, you know. And
Well, it just
if it
depends.
does,
It just depends on how you look at weddings. I think that really just depends on how you look at
and
weddings in
that's I
general.
think that's different between you and me because I feel like it's if you can find that, then it's great to harness it. But I also feel that you can't find something that's not there. And for me, I feel like that moment is not going to be there in the period of time that you're shooting. It's not guaranteed to be there. Where I don't know, maybe for you, you feel like a moment like that is in here somewhere, and I'm going to find it, and I'm going to capitalize on it.
It's more this moment is going to happen, and I better have my camera ready.
Yeah,
But at the same time, man, you've been to a handful of weddings. I'm at a wedding every
yeah,
weekend.
but then
So for
okay.
me, I'm a little bit more. I can say that my perception during a wedding is a little different
I
than
mean,
yours.
I'll agree with that completely. But I'll also say
Yeah.
that I, if you're looking for something that, like, you might be looking for something that I feel like is not there, but since you're so sure it's there, you're gonna find.
Oh, here, look, man. Let me. I gotta cut you off because I gotta tell you. Not every couple has it,
Uh,
and I'll tell you what. I've definitely been to my fair share of weddings where it wasn't there, and the bride and groom got divorced within a couple years.
because it wasn't there on the wedding day.
Wasn't there on the wedding day because it's like there are times where I have met couples before where in my head I knew it wasn't going to last because of how much they were fighting and what they were fighting about and how they were
Uh,
fighting to where I'm like, why would you willingly continue a relationship with this type of person?
yeah, I mean, I guess
Like, I won't say that to their face, but I'll tell them, I don't think I'm your photographer because what I'm looking for is this relationship. If you don't have that relationship with the person that you're getting married to, then it's going to be very difficult for me to shoot your wedding. If I don't
yeah.
feel that from you and how you treat each other, then I might as well
So
shoot,
are you saying that it's
llamas
not
fucking.
possible for that moment to happen a month before their wedding, or like
What I'm saying is it is
uh,
it's possible, but I've been to plenty of weddings where you know that like you can feel that the amount of happiness coming from both of these people and the way that they treat each other, that these two people were really meant to be with each other.
interesting.
Because I've definitely been to weddings where that's
Do
totally
you
the
think?
opposite. Like, why are you two
Right, right, right.
together?
Yeah, yeah. I see you.
And remember, not you got to remember that like I'm not always the photographer
No,
at all weddings. Sometimes I'm the
yeah.
photo booth operator.
It's the
Sometimes
wedding's just an event,
I'm
though,
just
man. I
delivering
mean,
flowers.
like I like that you have that unique perspective and you have all that experience, but like, and it's much more than mine as far as seeing brides. But I've seen probably as many wives as you have, and I feel like just because that moment's not there at the wedding doesn't mean they're guaranteed to get divorced. I mean, I don't think.
Okay, no, that's fair. No, that's fair. But at the same time, like that shininess is still there on their wedding day. You've met wives, but that shininess might not be there still.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, in that case, if I wasn't at their wedding, then I would never know if it happened. And so, yeah, I agree with you that that moment probably did come and go at some point. I just am, for me, I think that it's just as likely to be outside their wedding day as much as it is to be inside their wedding day. And I like that they're trying to capture the wedding day, but there's so many moving parts. I mean, okay, let's take it back to jiu-jitsu for a second. Like, I feel like there's some competitors, like jiu-jitsu competitors, that don't have their best jiu-jitsu rolls during the competition.
Okay,
Would you agree with that?
agreed.
Yeah. So, yeah, so maybe, or even, like you take any athlete or whatever, right? Like their best performance might not be on game day or something. because I feel like during a wedding there's so much going on, and it really, in all honesty, it's so much different than their normal life because it's a wedding and it's their wedding, right? It's a wedding that they're putting on. Like we talked about it before, how the people that hire you, a good percentage of them have never hired any photographer before, so they're really outside their element on their wedding day,
Right.
and so for that moment to happen on their wedding day, in addition to all these different factors, I think is like magical. And the fact that, so whenever you do capture it, I'm like, oh my God, I'm glad that I paid Paul for this because this moment happened to be on my wedding day and he was able to capture it. That's like the perfect storm.
So
But hold on real quick. So I'm saying that when that moment is not there, I don't feel like you can conclusively decide the future of their marriage just based on the window of the wedding.
Okay, so let me roll back a little bit.
Uh-huh. Okay.
When I say that I didn't say that if that moment wasn't there, they're going to get divorced. What I'm saying is I've had a different feeling. Like, I'm like, holy shit, these two are not going to get along. That and these two people are truly happy are two completely separate. So it's not like if one happens, then it's then the other happens. It's one could happen or the other can happen. Usually not at the same time. So to bring it back to jiu-jitsu, what I've realized with when you say I didn't have my best rolls, my best rolls weren't here on the mat. Right?
Yeah.
My best rolls were on the mat because you can honestly say when most jiu-jitsu competitors compete, they're competing with people from other schools. So it's their first roll with that person. You know, so when you say their best roll, that's their best roll within the school and within their partners they've already had. Do you see what I'm saying? So
yeah, and I mean that's part of it, like I said, but
okay.
Now that's one of many different things on that day.
Right. So here's the thing: is now let's take it back to the great ones. The great ones were always able to perform on any given day, right? So here's the thing: is if I meet a couple, and 3 months out, they're having a great day, and on their wedding day, like they know how to keep it great. Those are the couples that I really truly enjoy shooting because they've found a way to keep it shiny.
Yeah, I see you. I see that. I think though that to me there's an element, and so like with jiu-jitsu, which I feel like is similar to a lot of other different sports, having your best performance on game day and like adrenaline and stuff like that. I feel like there's a level of experience that matters. Where for a wedding, I would hope to think that the best brides aren't the most experienced brides. or even grooms,
but bride, groom, it just comes down to being a decent human being. Like you could be if you're a shitty human being, you're not going to be a great bride. Like you're just going to be a shitty bride. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If you're an asshole, it doesn't matter. Like you can be a great groom, but if you're still an asshole, you're an asshole.
So to you, it's kind of linear in that way. Like, do you think that people like at weddings are always going to present their best selves?
No. I they try but at the same time, like I said, when you go to a wedding and you can see the dynamic between the bride and the groom, that's, unless they're meeting for the first time, that's a practice dynamic. They've put themselves into positions where they've had to interact with each other before.
But they're meeting for the first time in that scenario, just like the jiu-jitsu guy. I mean,
true, but it's also, I see that, but you've also rolled before,
Yeah, and I guess for those couples that can keep that in perspective, like I've heard that for like Super Bowl participants or like and you pick your sport, whatever the world title, whatever the holy grail is of that sport. Like, look, I just got to remind myself, it's just another game. It doesn't matter that so many more people are watching. Doesn't matter that it's for the world championship. It's just another game. And I feel like the great ones can do that, can isolate themselves from the fanfare, where I feel like a good majority can't. And for weddings, for brides and grooms and couples and families, I feel the same way, which is to say a certain percentage of them can consider like, look, it's just another day where we're meeting with family and friends as a couple, but some of them I feel like they get consumed. They're like overwhelmed by the amount of different things that are going on that day, and they turn into different people. Just, I mean, sometimes
Yes,
it's the first of many bad days, or sometimes it's the only bad day. But
you're right. But then on the flip side of that coin, there are also couples that truly celebrate their union and appreciate the fact that they are celebrating it with the family and friends that they've invited.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so back to the photography part. So what exactly? How do you find that? Like
You
that
get
transition, if it's there, like what kind of things do you look for? Or were you always? Is it something like that was inherent? Do you feel like it was a gift? Do you feel like you had to practice at it and now you've mastered it, type of thing?
no, it's just it's getting to know the bride and the groom. Like
Uh,
once you really get to know the bride and groom, you can kind of see that dynamic and like there are times like when you get to see that dynamic and you're lucky enough to have a bride and groom that truly make each other happy and love each other and are
yeah.
very happy to just be around each other.
Uh,
That's a gift to me as a photographer.
yeah, yeah. Do you
Because
ever
I
try to manufacture that? Because I feel like there
no,
are ways you can try.
like you can try,
Uh,
but it looks forced, and
it's
that's
it's
tough
tough.
because
It's tough.
it's tough because like you said, you might not you might just be socially awkward.
Yeah.
Or you do
It's
not
almost like
like
forcing a
showing.
smile. It's almost like a photogenic
Yeah,
type of personality. Like some people have it, some
it's
people don't.
like there's people who just genuinely do not like having their emotions outed in public.
Yeah,
And then so that makes weddings difficult because again, here you are exposing yourself to a
yeah,
commitment that you are making lifelong in front of your closest friends and family.
yeah. Like there was. I
So
remember at our wedding. Well, we had two, but the actual wedding here in Houston before we had a ceremony for the family in Vietnam. There was a time during the ceremony that I started crying. Like I was. I had the little speech written and stuff, and then there was a point in the speech where I felt like, this might get a little emotional. But when it happened, it got way more emotional than I had anticipated, and I started crying. And then, like during the ceremony itself, and also in retrospect, I felt like, man, that I kind of overdid it. Like, I didn't really want it to get that far. However, my wife tells me, and like she's shown me, that was probably her most favorite part of the whole day was the time that I kind of let myself go. And
what's being vulnerable?
yeah, yeah, and like as far as our the people that saw it, or like people that were there, or the people that saw it on video or whatever, um, I don't know if they side more with me or more with my wife. I mean, truthfully, it doesn't matter, right? It only matters what we think. But I thought it was interesting that the part like if I were editing the video, I probably would have omitted that part. Where for her,
Why?
I felt like it was one of her favorite parts.
No, man. Like that's you're as a photographer and a videographer, your job is to capture the emotion.
Well, I think yeah, yeah, yeah. That's it's to capture the truth, right? I mean, for me,
And
it would
what's
almost
more,
it would be like for me, it would be like a highlight reel, but I include like my missed shots, right? Like sometimes you see there's like a Kobe Bryant highlight reel, but he's kind of famous for like missing like airballing four shots, 4 3-pointers, like in his one of his early seasons, but now he never misses, and partly it's because he did all those airballs, and so like those airballs are really part of his highlight reel, and so for me. I feel like I really try to stay composed. I feel like it's part of who I am. It's who I would like to be, and that moment wasn't one of them. But it also represents much more than what I think it represents,
so
and it's
when
very
you watch
evident in the
Sports
way she
Center,
reacted.
when you watch Sports Center,
Hmm.
if there's a game, say there's a basketball game, and
I wasn't gonna say it. I was trying to be taboo about the basketball.
say there's a basketball game and it's 97-96,
Yeah,
and the team that's down is has possession.
yeah, yeah.
Does Sports Center not show the miss because they missed?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
You're fucking joking, right?
What do you mean?
They're gonna they will always show the last shot.
Yeah, but there's more. There's certainly more important than that. Are they gonna accentuate it, or are they just gonna show it as if it's part of the highlight reel? Or during the interview,
Well,
are they
usually,
going to talk about
well,
that shot, or are they going to talk about the rest of the game? So it depends.
well, on a national platform of Sports Center, probably not, but locally, maybe.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean it's subjective. there's a level of politics involved that I'd rather not get into, but like, yeah, so they're going to show it, yes, but how they show it and the frequency of how they show it and the quantity of the amount of time they show it, it's gonna differ based on what somebody wants to say. It's because the Sports Center guys and media guys, they're trying to send a message, they're trying to tell a story. How they tell that story is up to them.
So when Ronda Rousey got knocked out the first time,
yeah,
she lost her belt.
Yeah.
Do you like when they show promos of all the other fighters that have fought her?
Okay.
They show that over and over and over and over.
Okay.
And over. And over.
I hear you. I'm not following though.
So it's a knockout. It's one of the most devastating times in her career.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Okay.
That's not going to stop anybody from not showing it. Like just because it's devastating.
It's gonna alter the different fights that she gets assigned to. It's gonna the different fights that she's scheduled for. It's part of her legacy, such as the missed shots, such as the wedding day. It's part of their legacy. And how much you focus on that, on the misses, on the failures, and how you translate those into the rest of the legacy, it matters.
So if I were to...
Her career is very different because of the knockout. I mean, you got to agree with me there.
If I were to, relate a basketball game to the course of the day as a wedding photographer, which is tough because there's no buzzer beater, right? There's no... Because the wedding's all day. The most important part of the day is all day. The most important part of the day is the day.
Yeah.
Right. So that's so with that.
What's your favorite food on the buffet? Everything. All the food is my favorite.
The meat. All the meat. Yeah. So if I were to relate that, like if I could only turn in one shot, like one picture of a basketball game throughout the course of the basketball game, there's 4 quarters. There's 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. I could turn in a shot for every minute, every 20 seconds of the game, right? Yep. But if I only have to pick one, it's probably going to be the last shot. If it's close, why is that last shot? Why would I choose that last shot? Because that's where the emotional teeter-totter gets settled.
Not always. Not always.
So if you're down by 7. Or you're down by 1.
I don't think I'd automatically choose the last shot just because it's a close game.
Yeah, because it's a close game. Because that's where the emotional balance lies for the people watching.
But there are pivot points in a game. I mean,
true.
I hate to talk about basketball more than we want to.
No. So,
like there are shifts in.
That's where I was getting to next. So the thing is, as a wedding photographer, it's not just buzzer beaters. You get the chance to document the whole day.
Yeah.
So I might by looking for those moments, I have to be able to find those moments all day. So it's not like I can just take one shot and be fine. Mm-hmm. It's, can I take pictures of the entire game? Like, can I effectively document the whole game?
And what you're saying is your own strategy is to continuously search for those moments of transition that you were talking about.
Right.
Like, that's how you select your shots, right?
Right.
It might seem a little random. It might seem a little unpredictable to the naked eye, but to you, it's very methodical, very calculated. It's very purposeful. Like, what I'm doing here is trying to capture those moments of transition, right? Whether
the day of transition.
Well, I mean, you said there were moments, right? There's certain moments where like you go from and sometimes, heck, I mean, even sometimes you see it in one of either the bride or the groom. Sometimes you see it in both of them. Sometimes you see it in family members. Sometimes you see it in like a group picture. I don't know, like something, right? In one of the speeches, But yeah, those moments for you, like, they're gonna be there. Those types of moments are gonna be there. And those are the things that I'm looking for. Those are the things that I think my clients are paying me to look for and to preserve. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and through those, that's how you I mean, take the editing part out of it, but like that's how you select what type of shots you aim for the day of, right? So we're just talking about that window of I don't know, like 2 hours to 6 or 7 hours or whatever the wedding is, right? Because all the preparation and all the editing and all that stuff comes, before and after. But just from the time that you turn the camera on to the time you put it in your bag for the last time, um, you're constantly looking for those type of moments, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I see it. I mean, I still think that the moment may or may not be there, but those types of moments, I'll buy that they're you're gonna find something to shoot. It's not like, yeah, dude, sorry, I only took like 3 pictures because those moments weren't there. And then the one time I
So
thought I saw it, but I didn't have my camera out, so I missed it.
the other like the other like when I shoot, I take more of a stance of a almost like a documentary.
Hmm.
I'm here to document. Here's two people who have decided to get married. They've gathered their family to they've gathered their family to celebrate,
Yeah.
and I'm getting paid to document that through
Uh-huh.
through images.
Yep.
So so there will not always be that emotional like heart tug moment,
Yeah.
but I still need to show that this event not only did it happen, but that it was beautiful in its own right.
Well, that I think the other images, that's the backdrop of these moments. I think the
Hmm.
moments are like the starring lead actors of the performance, but then you do have all these like kind of technical shots or all these supporting shots that are the backdrop to these really important ones, right? Like there's probably a couple of pictures you're like, I'm pretty sure they're not going to choose this one to blow up and put on their bedroom wall, but I need to take it anyway.
But they're probably going to put it into their album,
Yeah, 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 and it's going to be like an important part of their album, right?
right?
Like if, even it,
Because it sets up another
yeah,
image,
yeah, yeah.
or it ties
Yeah.
all the other images together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really like another layer of photography selection, right? It sounds like, because one is the artistic trying to capture lightning in a bottle, and the other one is like, okay, let's capture when the lightning wasn't in the bottle. Let's capture like um, the whole storytelling thing that you're talking about. Like, yes, some of these pictures, I know that they're not going to be that moment. I still need these pictures though to highlight and
Let's
enhance this
see.
moment.
Let me show you how the lightning got into the
Yeah,
bottle
yeah,
and
yeah.
how the lightning got out of the bottle.
Right, 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 right. And that's what documentaries are, right? For the most part, there's really um, like you can read the description of a documentary and find out what the important parts were, but the reason you watch the documentary is to find out how it unfolded, right? And
Right.
and it matters. It matters as far as the significance and the magnitude of what happened. Um, do do your do you discuss that with your other shooters?
Not always. Not always.
Yeah, because I feel like it's tough. I feel like it's tough to generate that kind of thought. I mean, hell, it took us a while. It took me a while to climb into your brain and for you to articulate that even to me. I don't know if you always have that kind of time or they listen that well.
Usually with other wedding photographers,
Uh,
they kind of are like I can see what they're looking. I When I hire a second shooter,
you have an idea.
I look at their portfolio, and if
Yeah.
their portfolio doesn't capture the things I'm looking for, then I don't
Uh,
hire them. Like I look at
uh,
their portfolio to see like, okay, these are the images you take. This is where you've decided to focus for the wedding. So this is what you find important. And if that doesn't line up to what I'm looking for, I don't even hire them.
but you also talk to them too, right? You're like, hey,
Yeah, no, and
why did you take this shot? I mean,
yesterday I had my assistant come over because I wanted to start second shooting for me. I told him, look,
yeah,
like the reason why you're not second shooting for me yet is because I don't know how you shoot. You don't really have
uh,
a second shooter portfolio. So,
yeah,
I'm going to use you for a few things, but I'm going to use you more to see how you're shooting. Because if what you're doing, isn't kind of like representative of my brand and what I'm looking for, then one of two things is
Yeah.
going to happen. Either I'm not going to use you, or I'm going to kind of try to train you to shoot like my style, to look for the same
Yeah.
things I am. And, and he's all about it. He's like, yeah, I'd love to learn. So I spent a good 2, 3 hours with him just going over my other images. And he's like, why
Mm.
did you shoot this like this? Why did you light this like this? I'm like, because this shows the bride like this. This is a moment that I find
Yeah.
important. I
So
want.
so basically he was like me before this conversation started, right? Like, okay, this is a good picture, but I don't know why you did it this way.
Yeah, like, or one of these questions is, why did you focus so much on this? And
Yeah.
and I told him, I said, this to me is a very important part of the wedding day. So
Yeah.
what you turn into me will show me what you find is important to the wedding day. And
Mm.
unfortunately, if that doesn't line up, you're either going to have to learn it, or we're going to have to stop shooting together. Because if we
Yeah.
don't find the same things important, or if at least you can't learn to know what I find important, then I'm not going to get what I'm paying you for.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but then I've had second shooters to I've looked at their stuff, and after the conversations I've had with them, after going over images with them, they know exactly what I'm looking for, and I just tell them to do their thing, and they do it. Like, there's 2 second shooters
Uh,
where I literally just cut them loose. I'm like, go do your thing.
yeah. 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 There's a level of trust that's built there, and not trust in the form of I think they're lying to me or they're not lying to me, but trust in the form of I think they're technically sound, and I can see what their strategy is. I don't think they're going to keep coming back to me saying, "Hey, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do?" Because it sounds like it's a type of job that is not instruction based. You can't just they're not just going to follow your orders because you don't have the time to just keep telling them what to do. Otherwise, you would just do it yourself, right?
Right. No,
Like
and that's a big part
at
of
some point they have to be just doing their thing.
that's a big part of choosing a second, is it being comfortable enough to let them do what they do.
Yeah.
Like when I choose my second shooter, um, I don't want them to ask me. I just want that, like, I tell them to shoot, like, especially if we're not in the same spot. Like, there's a lot of times where where bride and groom will hire me to take like getting ready shots, but the groom is
Yeah.
in LA, and then, like, the bride is in Ontario. So I have to trust that this other photographer is going to drive to Ontario, be professional, get all the shots I'm looking
Uh-huh.
for, handle all the details, and present my brand as I wanted them to,
As if
yeah, as if I am there myself, all while
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
also
yeah.
doing that in another location.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, you don't want someone thumbing through their wedding album in 10 years and them saying, "Oh, the reason this picture's like that is cuz it was somebody else shot it."
Yeah,
Like it sounds like it's supposed to seem like it was all one person. It was whatever the brand.
yeah. Like, so when I pick my second shooters, like, I also tried to look for second shooters who have a similar style to me, so that way when they look at my
Yeah.
stuff, they can kind of flex over into what I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's I mean, it sounds like it's working. I mean, the product speaks for itself.
Well, one of these days, man, go to my website and check out my last few weddings. Maybe you'll
Mhm.
understand. Like, I think you'll see what I'm talking about a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, and I've been to your website, and I think it's awesome. It like I think there's much more appreciation once you understand what you're looking for, though. It's almost like if I go walk through an art gallery and I have the artist standing there with me talking to my ear, I'm going to appreciate the art much more rather than if I go through the art gallery and I'm like, oh yeah, I saw some of your work. That one looked pretty cool. Because then the appreciation is limited by how I translate what the art means. I could go through your gallery and stuff, and based on what I know about how you shoot, and based on what your descriptions were to me, and based on what I think about photography, I'm gonna grade it. On a scale of 1 to 10, I think it's great. But then like if if somebody else if I point somebody else to your website and say, hey, look at Paul's images, they're awesome, and then he's like, yeah, I didn't think too much into them. I don't think that they're being stupid. I just think that they didn't have the privilege of having the artist behind the camera in their ear the whole time, like explaining what it was they were trying to do. And so that feeling of mission accomplished is more obvious for me than it would be for somebody else. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, I think that the explanations of telling the story can be as valuable as the story or the images themselves.
Yeah, but I think after, so you're right, but then
Uh-huh.
there does come a point after looking at at enough images and looking at enough art,
Uh-huh.
you learn to have that internal dialogue with
Yeah, yeah,
yourself.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's and then so the experience would come in in that way.
Yeah,
It's yeah, and you're
like
that's
there,
uh
like there's something I posted on Facebook.
huh
Recent, I think it was last night. There was
uh
something, because this is something I've done before. On Facebook, like on the post, it shows the design shapes that the image presents, like the
uh
general shape, like the rule of thirds, or golden triangle, or
uh
the different golden ratios that they have, like
okay
as shown in very very famous films.
uh
And they essentially create a video that visualize all the lines that when I watch a movie, that's what I'm looking at.
yeah
Like it's awesome because I used to break this shit down all the time,
yeah
and they put it in a minute and a half long video to show people where the composition lines lie
yeah.
within each image. So, and they just rapid shoot them, so that way you can just see them over and over again.
That's cool, man.
Um, no, it's awesome, and like for me, like I really appreciate the time that someone took to put that together, because I spent hours, countless hours, just
Yeah
pouring over images. Like, why is this image so strong?
yeah
What makes this image so strong? Like,
yeah
and then you start to see the lines, you start to see the composition, and you're like, oh my god, this is it. So
yeah
when I take pictures and when I edit pictures, I try to mimic and create those same lines, to
hmm
create those same patterns,
hmm
because if I can make them work for the image that I'm trying to put out, then it for me it's a stronger image.
yeah yeah yeah. I like the I feel like they've become like a new thing where uh like YouTube will put up these things like, hey, this is what this scene in this movie means, and or this is the pattern that this director has, and this is how it always works, or there's certain consistencies or certain um, like there's not Easter eggs, but there's like hidden patterns that like some YouTube analysts will notice, and then the way they present the information, like I started falling in love with those type of videos. I'm like, man, that's cool. I like how they do that. But it's not something that,
They do
huh? I was gonna say,
they do like an MMA,
go ahead, go ahead.
they do an MMA breakdown like that too, to
Uh,
where they show like there's one guy on YouTube. He would break down both fighters and be like, these are the tendencies that I see as a trained eye.
uh,
As so and so throws the right punch, she drops the left hand
yeah,
just this much. Or as they're scrambling, they tend to push off their right foot, which exposes them to this.
yeah,
They would do it, and then they would create gifs or gifs, depending
uh,
on how you want to say it,
uh,
um, to just show that same pattern over and over again till where it becomes apparent. And that, I mean, to me, that's amazing work too, because the analyst work is amazing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that number one, I think it makes you fall in love with whatever subject you're already interested in. Like it gives me another reason to fall in love with MMA for for or if it's like something I don't really know anything about, let's say like hockey, like I can kind of watch the action of hockey, but as far as the strategies and what went wrong and what went right, I don't really know. But if I watch a video like that, then I'm like, oh, okay, I guess there is a rhyme or reason to what hockey players are doing, or there is something that makes these guys successful or these guys struggle.
I had a couple buddies of mine that they grew up playing baseball, and I went to a Dodger game with
Uh,
them. And the things that they were talking about, the things that they could perceive and
yeah,
see while watching a baseball game, was going right over my head.
yeah,
I'm like, what the fuck are you guys talking about?
uh,
But that, I think that's what makes baseball such an intellectual
yeah,
game, to like it doesn't. There's a lot of things going on that unless you're trained to see them, you're not going to see them. But then same thing with basketball
Uh-huh.
too. Like a casual watcher might know what a pick and roll
Right, right,
is,
right.
but to know the intricacies of a pick
Yeah,
and
yeah,
roll,
yeah.
that's totally different. But same thing with an
Uh-huh,
armbar.
uh-huh,
There's maybe like you probably have 3 or 4 arm bars in your
uh-huh.
arsenal when you have a black belt who can hit an arm bar from 50 or 60 different ways.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like, because even some of the blue belts and even some of the purple belts, even like they'll still be in the fundamentals class, and I can see why. It's because like you kind of there's always something to pick up. Like there's always another layer of mastering or perfecting like one technique, especially in jiu-jitsu. Just because you like have been introduced to a technique doesn't mean you know it. It just means that you've been introduced to it, right? But I was going to say something. Oh, what you said about baseball, I have read something similar about tennis, and it's very. And baseball and tennis are unique in this way, or I mean, I'm sorry, they're not unique, but they're alike in this way. Unlike basketball, where a lot of the reasons certain teams are successful, not teams, but for tennis players, certain players are successful, are because of what they do when the ball's not moving. And I can imagine that's what some of your buddies were noticing at the Dodger game. Maybe like between pitches and stuff, there were certain things that players were doing. But I know that in the tennis example that I read about, it was something. I don't know if it was energy level or focus or alertness or whatever. But it talked about like, okay, the great tennis players like the Rafael Nadal, the Roger Federers, the whoever, and Andy Murray, yeah, Djokovic, right? It said watch them between points and see like see how much their hyperactivity drops like a rock in between points. Like they're so active.
Oh, the conservation of energy.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Like they're very efficient with not just their physical energy, but like even their mental alertness. They're like their mental concentration. They really turn it on when it's needed, and they shut it off when it's not needed. And I thought it was really fascinating. Like
Yeah.
it's something I really never noticed until I started watching for it, and now I feel like it's something I can't unsee.
Yeah,
You know?
no, there was I remember I was at the VA, and they had a Sports Illustrated, and they were doing some story about when Kobe switched shooting coaches.
Uh huh.
I think they brought in Chuck Person to
Okay.
help Kobe with his shot,
Uh huh.
and they said that they switched his shooting style from the release coming off the forefinger.
Mm-hmm.
No, coming off the middle finger instead of the forefinger, because they said that he kind of had the ball during the release, kind of when it would release, it was coming off his forefinger.
Okay.
But they said that once they started switching it to his middle finger,
Mm-hmm.
his percentages like increased by like 20 to 30%, which is huge in basketball.
Yeah.
So and I mean, I could be butchering this story, but I was just like, I never even noticed which finger the ball came off
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
So, like that exists in everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And, you know, um, be it jujitsu, be it basketball, be it
Yep.
tennis, baseball, it's there. And to really get lost into those details is it's time consuming.
Yeah.
Hence, that's why I only do nursing photography and
Bring it all back. Bring it all back.
hard. 3 hard lefts makes a circle.
It's really 4, but let's see.
4, yeah. Well, it depends on how hard the third left is. So,
It could be 1 hard left. It just doesn't stop.
yeah. This is just all 1 hard left.
Bring it around town.